Okay, and our meeting is being recorded. And with that, I would like to introduce our next presenter. Our next presentation is titled How to Apply for Jobs in Germany. And Theresa.Fuchs is joining us from the Goethe-Institut in Chicago. She's originally from Gera in Thüringen in Germany and received her teaching degree at the Philipps University in Marburg in Hessen in English and in religion. She moved to the US in January 2019 and has been working there as a language consultant at the Goethe-Institut in Chicago. During her student and professional career, she used every chance available to do internships or work abroad. And she has lived in England, in Lithuania, and Kazakhstan, and is excited to now have the chance to help you get your first job abroad. So, Frau Fuchs, please go ahead. The floor is yours.
Dankeschön, Anna. Hello, everyone. I'm happy to get the chance to talk to you about how to apply for jobs in Germany. And yeah, thanks again for the nice introduction and for having me here. I put together all the advice that I can share with you about how to find either an internship position or a job in Germany. And I will cover the following points in my presentation. First of all, job hunting, where to actually look for jobs if you want to apply in Germany. Then, if you decided on applying, which documents should you include in your application? Then, the next step, you might be invited to a job interview, what to expect there. And then, of course, maybe you know all these things already from preparing for working later. What are the cultural differences between the US and Germany on the job market, and especially concerning the application process? And last but not least, I put together some helpful links where to go next after this presentation. And in the last 10 minutes, you will have the time to ask me questions. So you can already, while I'm speaking, type them in the chat window and come up with them. And I'm very happy to use these last minutes to answer your question. Okay, so let's start. If you're looking for a job or an internship position in Germany, the first place I would go to is the Federal Employment Agency, or called Agentur für Arbeit, because that's their main business, to help people in Germany but also from abroad find jobs. And they actually even put together a portal called Make It in Germany Job Exchange, which is especially targeting people who are looking to come to Germany from abroad to work there. So they collected all the information that they have from helping people every day find a job in Germany and put it in that portal. So that's a very, very important resource for you to check out when you're looking for a job or when you're thinking of moving to Germany for work. And they also put in place a hotline where you can call and ask and speak to an actual person and ask your questions about working and living in Germany, and I put the number there. It's of course a German number, but that's another resource I can share with you for the preparation. Then, as you know, Germany is part of the European Union, and the European Union also has an employment agency that has a portal on which jobs are posted. It's called EURES, and you can also, if you click on the underlined word, get the link to that portal. And then additionally, there's a lot of regional job portals, so on the pages of the city, on the local newspaper, and also there's some Germany-wide commercial portals that do just that, publish job postings. So if you go on Google and look for job portals Germany, there's also a variety that will come up. And if you already know in which region you want to go, you should also for sure check out the local newspaper. They also often have on their website a section for job openings. And of course, if you already know what company or what sector you're interested in, the company on their own website also always posts their job openings. So for example, at Goethe-Institut Chicago, we also have internship positions, and we always post them on our Goethe-Chicago website, and that's what a lot of German companies do. So if you have already a company in mind, you should first of all look at their website for a job opening. And after job hunting, if you didn't find something that's exactly what you want, another thing that you can do is to write an application without seeing the posting. We call it Initiativbewerbung. So you're taking the initiative to apply. That's also an option. You just have to research the company and the department that you would like to work in. And even if they don't have an opening, you might, with an application, make yourself known and get in touch and learn more about options that are available. The next step then, if you found where you want to apply, is to put together your application documents. The most important piece of your application, in my view, is the cover letter. That's what I would always put as the first document, both in an email I write in the PDF, but or in the paper application as well. It's a short letter where you state why you're the one suited for the position. So you're, of course, first saying why you're applying and for what you're applying, but then you're putting the main facts about yourself, why you're the suited candidate, and you're asking them to get back to you in this letter. And this is really the first thing that the HR person from the company sees, and on what, well, the first impression that you get to give, and that makes them either put away your application if you managed to input some grammatical mistakes or something, or to keep reading and keep their interest up in you. The next part of an application is the resume or the CV. In Germany, we usually structure that very much like almost like a table, with the first point being personal details, where you put your name, your address, your contact details, your date of birth, the country of birth, and also your marital status, if you have children, and a photo. Even though nowadays there is a trend to not include a photo and to not include so much personal information, it's still very common in Germany to write whether you have children, whether you're married. Then the next point should be professional experience. Here you list everything that you already, all the positions that you already held, and if you haven't haven't had previous jobs, you might want to include internships that you did. What's important here is that you only include the experience that's relevant for the position you're applying for. So if I was applying, or for example, when I was applying for my Goethe-Institut job, I of course did not include jobs that I had as a student, maybe helping out at some festivals, because it wasn't relevant to the position I applied for. So really select well what would be of interest to your employer. Then the next point is your education. You should list what high school you went to, and if you're studying, what university you went to. And also, if you're not done yet with your degree, that's no problem, but it's important to write when you expect to be done, because that's an important information for your employer. And it's also written below, please put it in the, well, backwards chronological order, like put first what is your most recent degree and put your high school, for example, under your university, because your most recent degree is most relevant to your future employer. And then there's a lot of other small things that you should also not forget in your resume. Of course, your language skills. If you have language skills, what's important there is that in Europe, we use the European framework for languages. So it's good if you write, my German is A1 or A2, or if you give, if you state it in a way that your employer gets a chance to know how well your German is. And of course, what is best is if you have an official certificate, like a Sprachdiplom, DSD Sprachdiplom, or like a Goethe-Zertifikat for some German level. If you include that, your employer is very well informed at what level your language skills are. Another thing you can include are special qualifications and interests. So, for example, if interns apply for the job here at Goethe-Institut, it's very good if they tell us, oh, I know Excel, I know Photoshop, if they have some of those additional skills that could be of relevance, again, to the position they are applying for. And you're also allowed to include hobbies there, even though you should always take the other perspective and consider what kind of view this sheds on you. But yeah, if you're doing something cool, that there is a space, there's an option to include that in your resume. Especially, for example, if your hobby is photography and it has some relevance for the position, then you should for sure include it. Then you put the date and your signature on the resume and you're done. And you should, of course, always proofread it to not have any typos in there. Another thing you can include is a photo. In Germany, it's very common that you have a photo in your application, and of course, you want a professional photo that makes a good impression on you, where your face is turned fully to the camera and is fully visible. So the one that's in the middle on the top, I wouldn't say that this is perfect because part of her face is not visible, and that doesn't give such a good impression. And you should have a professional outfit, so a blouse or a suit is very good. And the one with the pullover on the top right, I also wouldn't recommend as an outfit for an application photo. But again, there's a trend now that photos are not included anymore. But in a lot of companies, it's still expected, or it's listed as one of the requirements what you should include in your application. And what is a no-go, of course, is to put pictures from free time activities, like from somewhere on the beach or with someone else in the picture, or in a very leisure outfit. Really consider, again, take the other perspective and consider what kind of impression you convey with the photo, and not only check whether you look perfect on the photo, but yeah, try to also look professional. Another thing that you should include in your application are certificates and references. It's very common to include your high school diploma or your college degree. You must not send it as the original, but you can do a good scan and yeah, include it as a PDF, or include a copy, because we don't recommend to send originals, because very often the companies don't send back those copies, and it would be very bad if you lose your original degree. So yeah, please do copies. And with references, I mean letters from your previous employers or from people who know you, who tell about your qualifications, or who justify that it's true that you really have these skills and these experiences. So for example, when I was a student and I did internships, at the end I was always asking them to write, to give me a signed list of tasks that I did, and also some short text about how I did, and that was always helpful for the next job I applied for, to use as a reference. And also in university, you can ask your professors to write you a letter of recommendation. That's also a good thing. If your professor or someone you work with tells that they think you're well suited and that this is a good step in your career, if that's included in the application. So once your application documents, the cover letter, the resume, and the other references were submitted, and you might get invited to a job interview that can take place in person when you're invited to the company where you will work at, or it can take place like this now in a virtual setting. And of course, you want to be well prepared for the job interview as well. So what to expect? They could ask about your CV, about the things that you wrote there. Of course, they will ask your expectations. For an internship, they might often ask, what do you plan, what do you think you will learn from this internship? And if you're applying for a job, they might also ask, what was your last salary and what is your expectation? So have a number ready in your mind that you wanna bring up there if that comes up. They will talk to you about your qualifications, maybe ask at what professor you studied, or when you had this degree, when did you get this degree, and also about your interests. They will ask about your language skills and maybe even test them. I had it in quite a few of the job interviews that I went through, that they had some small sections where they switched to the language, to the other language that I speak, to see how I'm doing with that. So be prepared that that can happen. And of course, if you're moving for this position, they might want to know, why do you want to work in Germany? And what do you expect your life to be like? Because obviously they want someone who's really ready to make that move and who won't disappear after the first weeks. So to prepare, you should know the company well and know their, and from there try to know their expectations. You should prepare a couple of answers to the questions that I just went through above. You should definitely be on time. It's very bad if you show up late, even if you have a perfect excuse. Yeah, just be on time, and also be dressed in a professional way and appropriately to the position that you're applying for. And then usually after the interview, or in the last sentence of the interview, you will hear in what time frame you hear back from the company. And usually the company contacts you and tells you either yes or no, or has more questions about maybe documents that you have to send over. But if you haven't heard after the agreed period of time, you're allowed to contact them and ask about the status of your application. So to conclude, I will just go through the biggest cultural differences, which I already touched a little bit when I went through the application documents. So a big difference is that you have personal data on your resume. As I said, it's normal to include whether you're married or not, whether you have children, and to also have a photo. And some employers, especially if they're more conservative, they expect that this is included. Then for the design of your resume, a good rule of thumb is less is more. For your employer, it's important that they find the information very quickly that they are looking for. So only have the internships or work experience that's relevant included there, and also fonts or images or graphics. So for the design, it should be very, very easy to find the information and to navigate, and it should be easy to read the font that you choose. So yeah, less is more is a good rule. The cover letter is the most important piece, and you should really put thought in that, how you can persuade, like the one good point about you, why you should be hired, why you should have the position, should come up in the cover letter. Then another thing that might be different in German and American HR departments is that hard skills are very, very highly valued, while soft skills might not even be discussed. So really your diploma, your qualification, how many years of experience you have, yeah, those hard facts about your professional standing are very important, while the soft skills are very important, I agree, when you then work there, but might not be as important and as broadly discussed in the application process. As I already mentioned, actually it's none of the business of the employer whether you're married or when you plan to have children, why you don't have children, why you have children. That's your personal thing. However, it can happen that such questions come up in the job interview. If you're uncomfortable to answer them, you don't have to answer them. It's your right to just be like, oh, yeah, I don't want to answer this now, and it's or just to ask like, is this relevant for the application, which it cannot be. However, I heard not from myself in my own job interviews, but from a friend that yeah, she was asked whether she thinks with her 1-year-old child she can manage to have the position, and she was very upset that yeah, she was put into that position to answer that, but it can just be ready that this can happen, unfortunately, in job interviews. Then I already mentioned you have to include written references, while in the US it's more common that you just give the number and your employer calls. The references that you give, it's very common in Germany that you include a written reference in the application. And then here, as I said, last but not least, are a couple of links that might be good to go next. There's a quiz you can take that walks you again through the facts that I just mentioned about applying in Germany. The portal Make It in Germany, I really want to recommend you to go there to even find more resources and information. And then for career possibilities and internships, the American Chamber of Commerce in Germany has also a section on job openings and also a lot of advice, especially in this German-American cultural context, how to prepare, and also some posts you might want to read of people and their experience. And the US German internship program, CBYX, is also something that might be a good first step to apply for and to get to Germany. And if you are interested to go for research, there's a whole other homepage that tells you all when you're a PhD student or master student and you want to go to Germany, that's called Research in Germany. And yeah, that's it for the information I want to share with you. And as I said, the last minutes will be used for questions, and I'm really, really happy that already some questions have been posted. And I'm happy to go through them now.
Thank you so much.
Anna, do you
yeah. Thank you so much, Theresa, for this very insightful presentation. I think we've learned a lot and also saw how there are a lot of similarities, but
yeah.
also quite some notable differences. So let's look at the questions and let's look at the first one. What about a work permit for non-EU nationals? What is necessary? Do you have any information on that? Mm-hmm.
So it really depends what country you come from. As yeah, in the EU it's very easy that people can just go abroad and work. And for Germany that's different, but there's options to get a visa, and I would recommend to check what's relevant for you, either on the job portals that I already mentioned or on the page of the German consulate that's closest to you, because that's where you would need to apply for that.
Sometimes I think, or most of the time, it also states whether job or kind of visas can be obtained through the company, but probably it's best to look at this on a one-on-one or individual basis. Another question that came in was, I want to apply for work in Germany, but I have a family. I'm intimidated that this will be a barrier for me. Should I be concerned or should I just try? Yeah, I think so too, but also probably,
if I understand the question correctly, it's whether you can move
it might
to Germany for a job and take your family along.
Permits.
Is that how you understand the question as well, Anna?
Just that you're not kind of on your own, an individual. And
right. So of course that's moving to Germany for a job with your family involves more organization. However, if you're married, it's usually possible for your partner and your children to obtain the same, obtain a visa through your visa. Concerning the cost of living, of course, you have to check whether the salary is able to support everyone. But I would say it's similar to cheaper, depending on where you go in Germany, the cost of living. So yeah, I hope that the financial situation would not be what stops you. And concerning childcare in schools, that's for sure cheaper in Germany, and I think it can be done. And if you go to a big company, they often have a department actually that's helping finding those finding, for example, a kindergarten spot, finding a school. And you also, if you come into a company, you have the resources of your colleagues who can help you and give you advice how to settle in
Thank you so much. And
with your family.
one other
So I would
question
say
was
it
if it
shouldn't be
is
something
possible to
that
apply
stops
for
you, but it should
government
be, of course,
jobs.
considered whether
Here in the US, often you
it
have
can
to
be
be a
done
national
financially.
to work for the government. Do you have any information on that?
I think it depends on what kind of government job it is. So if you need, well, some openings are also limited to people who earned their degree in Germany. So if you lived a certain amount of years in Germany, it's enough and it's accepted, and it should be written in the job posting whether that's possible for foreign nationals to have this job or not. Yeah, I have no knowledge about a good example. If you consider teaching a government job, that's my own profession where I
In those
have more
cases,
background knowledge.
actually,
To
it's
be a
more often
teacher
than
in a
not, you
like
have
in
to
a
have
state
the
school, you
local
just need
credentials.
the right degrees,
Probably what
and
is
they
more
don't ask
important than your passport. But
for
I
the
think
passport to hire you.
the best bet is that you
But
actually look for or look at the specific job posting. And then we actually have to move on to our next presentation. There's one question in the chat about information on where to apply for work visas. Do you have a quick answer, or can you point Catherine to a specific website? Otherwise, maybe Catherine could get in touch with you privately through the presenter